Hello and welcome back. It is so wonderful to have you with us again. If you're just joining us, please take a moment to get comfortable. Maybe you've got a warm cup of tea, or maybe you're out on a walk, just, taking a quiet moment for yourself. You are listening to Fluent Mindcast, and today we are going to do something a little different. We're going to slow things way down. We're just going to take a deep breath, and we're going to explore a topic that is, I think, very close to all of our hearts, but it often makes our palms sweat a little bit. How to talk about ourselves, and more specifically, how to talk about our strengths and our weaknesses in English.
It's so great to be here. And I really love the atmosphere we're setting today because this isn't a test. This is not a high pressure lesson where you feel like you have to memorize 100 new words. Think of this deep dive as a safe haven, a really quiet space where we can explore language without all that stress of needing to be perfect. We know that for so many of you listening, our learners talking about yourself can feel it can feel intimidating. It can feel really stressful. So our mission today is simple. We just want to be your listening guide. We want to help you feel confident and ready when someone asks that question. So who are you and what are you good at?
Exactly. And I love that idea of a safe haven. Because let's be honest, when someone asks, what are your strengths or what are your weaknesses, even in our native language, our hearts might beat a little faster. It feels really personal. And then to do it in English, that adds this whole other layer of challenge, doesn't it? But here's the good news. And I think this is the first really big insight from our sources today. This whole topic, it's not just for job interviews.
That is so right. It is very easy to think, oh, I only need this for a job interview. But that just isn't true at all. We talk about what we're good at and what we're, maybe struggling with all the time. It happens in casual chats with friends when you're just deciding who's going to cook dinner tonight. It happens when you're introducing yourself to a new team at work, or even when you're just trying to explain why you might need a little bit of help with a task.
Right. So if you're listening right now, I really want you to just relax. We're going to unpack all of this together. And here's the promise of this deep dive. By the end of our conversation, you will see that you don't need complex grammar. You really don't need these technical, fancy words to be effective. The goal here is clarity. The goal is honesty. It is not complexity.
That is the key. That's the takeaway to start with. Clarity over complexity. So let's settle in and start exploring how we can all find our voice in English.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. We need to talk about section 1, which is the mindset shift. I think a lot of us have this myth in our heads. I know I've definitely felt it when I was learning a new language. We think, if I want to sound professional, if I want to sound smart, I need to use big, difficult words. We think perfection means using vocabulary that sounds like it came from a dusty old dictionary. But is that actually true?
It's a very common belief. I call it the dictionary syndrome. But our sources tell us something quite different. In fact, they completely debunk this myth. The truth is, native speakers often use very, very simple words. They use natural phrases because they're focusing on communication. They're not focusing on showing off their vocabulary. If you really listen to a native speaker describing themselves, they're not looking for the most complicated word they can find. They're looking for the truest word.
Okay, but let me just play devil's advocate for a second here. Because in school, we are literally graded on our vocabulary. If I write the word good, I might get a lower grade than if I write exceptional or exemplary. So are we saying the real world is kind of the opposite of school?
In many ways, yeah. Especially when it comes to spoken conversation, yes. It comes down to something we call cognitive load. If you use a very complex word, but you use it maybe slightly incorrectly or it just sounds forced because you're searching your brain for it, it creates a distance. It creates stress for you. And strangely enough, it actually creates stress for the listener, too. They have to work harder to understand what you mean.
Yeah.
But if you use a simple word, a clear word like good or better or challenging, you sound real. You sound authentic.
That is so reassuring to hear because I think we put so much pressure on ourselves. We think, oh no, I repeated the word good twice in a sentence. I must sound terrible. But actually, simple is effective.
It's absolutely effective. And the source material highlights a really interesting fact here. Even native English speakers sometimes struggle to describe their own strengths clearly.
Yeah.
This is a universal human challenge. It is not just a language barrier. It's hard for anyone to look in the mirror and say, okay, this is what I am good at. So if you feel stuck, just remember, it isn't just because English isn't your first language. It's because it's a hard question for everybody.
I love that perspective. It really makes us all feel less alone in this process, doesn't it? So let's talk a little more about this idea of honesty versus complexity. The sources say that clarity and honesty matter more than anything else. Can we dig into that a little bit?
We can, yeah. Imagine you meet someone new. maybe at a coffee shop. And if they start using this extremely formal academic language just to describe their hobbies like, I endeavor to participate in culinary activities, it would feel strange, right? It
Yeah.
feels a little robotic.
Yeah.
But if they just say, I love cooking, you connect with them instantly.
I endeavor to participate. Yeah, I think I would probably back away slowly from that person. It sounds like you're reading a contract, not talking to a person.
Exactly. And there's a curiosity in the text that I find fascinating. It says that overusing advanced words can actually make a speaker sound less natural.
Yeah.
Simplicity is actually a strength. It shows you're comfortable. It shows you aren't, hiding behind a thesaurus.
Okay, so here is a moment for you, if you're listening. I just want you to take a breath. Really, just breathe in and breathe out. And let go of that pressure to find the big words. You don't need them. You just need to be you.
Exactly.
Huh?
Let that pressure go. We're aiming for connection here, not for perfection.
All right. Now that we've cleared our minds a bit, let's get practical. Let's talk about strengths. This is section 2 of our deep dive, natural confidence. So imagine someone asks you, what are you good at?
Yeah.
Where do you even start with a question like that?
It is a big question. But the best place to start, according to our research, is just with your daily life. Don't try to invent some new business persona. Just think about the skills you already use every single day. Think about the things that people compliment you on. Do people always say, wow, you are so organized, or you explain things so well? Start right there.
That makes it so much less scary. You're not inventing anything, you're just reporting the facts of your life. Okay, so let's look at some specific phrases. Our source material gives us some wonderful, really simple sentence starters. I'd like to go through these slowly so our listeners can really hear them and maybe even practice them a little bit.
This is a great idea. Let's treat this like a little practice session. So the first phrase is very simple, but it's very powerful. I'm good at.
I'm good at. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But there's a little grammar trap here that we should probably mention right.
Yes, this is a very important detail. The word at is a preposition. And in English grammar, if you put a verb after a preposition, you have to add ing to the end of it. So you cannot say, I am good at cook. You must say, I am good at cooking.
Oh, that is such a common slip-up, like I'm good at play tennis. Nope, I'm good at playing tennis.
Exactly. And getting that little ing, right, makes you sound incredibly fluent. It's a small detail, but it shows you have control of the language.
Yeah.
I'm good at solving problems.
Yeah.
I'm good at listening to people. It's direct, it's clear.
Okay, listener, I want you to just think of one thing that you are good at. And in your head, or maybe out loud if you can, just finish the sentence. I'm good at. And remember that.
Take your time. I'm good at.
Beautiful. Okay, let's try the next one. This one's a little bit softer, I think, maybe a little more relaxed.
Yes. The phrase is, I'm comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with. Oh, I really like that one. It implies experience.
It does. It suggests you've done this before. You're at ease with it. I'm comfortable with using new technology. Or, I'm comfortable with public speaking. It sounds very professional, but also very calm. It's not, shouting about how great you are. It's just stating a fact.
Let's try one more. This one is perhaps a little more formal, but it's still very, very natural.
One of my strengths is.
One of my strengths is. That's a great way to introduce a key quality about yourself. One of my strengths is my patience.
Exactly. And notice, none of these phrases are arrogant. They're just true statements. And that actually brings us to a really important cultural point.
Yes, let's talk about that because we have listeners from all over the world. And in many cultures, saying, I am good at this, feels like bragging. It feels impolite. It sort of feels like you're being the tall poppy that needs to be cut down,
That is a very real feeling for many, many learners. But here's the cultural curiosity from our source. In many English-speaking cultures, especially places like the US, the UK, Australia, talking about your strengths is not just allowed, it is encouraged. It's even expected.
So if I don't say it, they don't assume I'm just being modest. They might assume I'm bad at it.
Precisely. If you're in an interview or even a team meeting, people can't read your mind. They're waiting for you to tell them how you can help. If you don't say what you're good at, the other person simply won't know. They're just waiting for you to give them the information so they can sort of check the box.
So it's not about having a big ego. It's about self-awareness.
Spot on. Recognizing your strengths helps you sound authentic. It shows you know yourself. If you say, I am good at organizing events, you aren't saying, I am the best person in the world at this. You're just saying, this is a skill that I have. And that's helpful information for the listener.
That is such a helpful reframe. You're just providing information, you're not boasting. Okay, so we've covered the good stuff. Now we have to go to the darker side. Or is it? Let's move on to section 3, talking about weaknesses.
This is often the part that makes people the most nervous.
Definitely. There's this huge fear, if I admit I have a weakness, will I look bad? Will they think I'm not good enough? And then there's the temptation to do the humble brag. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, my weakness is that I just work too hard, or I just care too much.
Oh, please do not do that. It is the oldest trick in the book, and nobody believes it. It just sounds fake.
So we need honesty, but not suicidal honesty. We don't want to say I'm lazy and I hate mornings.
Right. We need to reframe the negative. In English, and especially in professional contexts, weaknesses are viewed as areas for improvement. They're not failures. They're just parts of your personal map that are still being drawn.
Areas for improvement. I like that. It sounds active. It sounds like there's movement.
And here's a key insight from the source material. Interviewers, and really conversational partners in general, often care more about how you handle the weakness than the weakness itself. They want to see your attitude. Are you aware of it? And what are you doing to fix it?
So how do we express that attitude? We need to use what the source calls softening language. We don't want to be dramatic. We want to keep the whole conversation feeling positive.
Right. We want to be honest but gentle. We use qualifiers. So instead of saying, I am bad at this, which sounds so permanent like a tattoo, we limit it. Let's look at some phrases that do this really well. Here's the first one. I'm still working on.
I'm still working on. That is lovely. It implies that the work is happening right now. It's a process.
Exactly. For example, I'm still working on my time management. Just listen to the rhythm of that. It's not my time management is bad. It's I'm still working on my time management. It sounds like a project that you're managing.
It sounds so proactive. Okay, listener, try that one. Think of something you're improving. I'm still working on.
Here's another one. For when something is maybe a bit difficult for you, I sometimes struggle with.
The word sometimes is doing a lot of work in that sentence, isn't it?
It is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It limits the problem. It says, this isn't my whole life. It's just something that happens from time to time. For instance, I sometimes struggle with public speaking. It sounds honest and vulnerable, but not disastrous.
And one more phrase, which I think is very positive.
I'm trying to improve my, this is pure growth mindset. I'm trying to improve my English vocabulary. It shows you have a goal. You're looking forward.
So all of these phrases, they frame the weakness as part of a learning journey.
That is the perfect term for it, a learning journey. When you speak this way, you show that you are a person who learns. You are a person who grows. And that is actually a strength, even when you are talking about a weakness.
So we have our strengths phrases and we have our weakness phrases. But in real life, we don't just read from a list, do we? Like, I am good at cooking, I am bad at cleaning. We mix them together. This brings us to section 4, the art of balance.
Connecting the dots. This is where you move from just basic sentences to more fluid, natural communication. Strengths and weaknesses aren't separate lists on 2 different pieces of paper. They are connected parts of your personality.
So how do we connect them naturally?
Well, there's a really great technique where you connect a weakness directly to a strength. It shows that you understand how your own brain works. We often call this the pivot.
Our source gives a really specific example of this, using the idea of being detail-oriented.
Sure.
Let's walk through that example because I think it really helps to hear it in action.
Sure. So imagine someone who is very, very careful. They notice every little mistake. That is a strength. We call that being detail-oriented. But because they are so careful, sometimes they work a little slowly. That is the weakness.
Okay, so how would they say that in a conversation using this pivot technique?
They might say something like this. Well, I'm very detail-oriented, which means my work is usually very accurate. However, because I check everything so carefully, I sometimes spend a little too much time on small tasks.
Oh, that is brilliant. Do you hear what happened there? They admitted a weakness, spending too much time, but they wrapped it inside a strength, which is being accurate.
Exactly. And this demonstrates high emotional intelligence and self-awareness. You're essentially saying, I know who I am. I know my good side creates a challenge on the other side, and I am managing it.
And this works in casual conversation too, right? This isn't just for an office.
Absolutely. You could say to a friend, you know, I'm really enthusiastic about making plans. That's my strength. But sometimes I struggle with actually being on time for them.
Yeah.
It's honest. It's human.
It makes you relatable.
Right.
Now, there's another layer to this balance. It's about how we deliver the information. We shouldn't just give a list of adjectives like, I am organized, I am punctual, I am friendly. It's a bit robotic.
It is a bit dry, yeah. English communication really values storytelling. We love a narrative. So instead of just listing a word, give an example. Tell a short story.
Why do stories work so well?
Because they provide proof. And frankly, they're just easier to listen to. The human brain is wired for stories. If you say, I am organized, I just have to take your word for it. But if you tell me how you plan your week, I can see it. And then I believe it.
Let's construct an example scenario. How would you turn I am organized into a little story?
You might say something like, I like to start my Monday mornings by writing down my top 3 priorities for the week. Last week, for example, when things got really busy, that list helped me stay focused.
That is so much better. It paints a picture. I can see you with your notebook. I can see you checking things off the list.
And for a weakness, you could describe a specific situation where you noticed a challenge and then what you did about it. Last month, I noticed I was getting really distracted by emails coming in all day. So now I try to check my inbox only twice a day.
See? That's a story. It has a beginning, a problem, and a solution. And the source says this makes you sound more natural, more engaging, and just more human.
It connects us. We are hardwired to listen to stories.
Okay, let's move on to something that's often invisible but is so, so important. Section 5. Tone, delivery, and intonation. We know what to say now, but how should it sound?
This is crucial. You can have the perfect vocabulary, but if the tone is wrong, the message gets completely lost. In general, English favors a tone that is calm, friendly, and confident.
It's a balancing act, though, isn't it?
It is. Think about the two extremes. If you speak too apologetically about your weaknesses, if you look down at the floor, your voice is quiet, you sound very sad. You just sound unsure of yourself. You sound insecure.
Like, I'm really sorry, but I'm not very good at math.
Exactly. That doesn't inspire confidence. But the other extreme is also tricky. If you speak too strongly, too loudly about your strengths, you can sound arrogant or even a bit aggressive.
I am the best at math.
Right. That's too much. The goal is what we call a relaxed middle ground. You want to sound like you are just comfortably sharing facts.
And this brings us to intonation, the melody of the voice. Our source mentions that intonation can change how confident you sound, even if the words are simple. And specifically, we need to watch out for upspeak.
Yes, upspeak is when your voice goes up at the end of a statement, which makes it sound like a question. Let's try to demonstrate this. I'll say a phrase with that upspeak. Listen to this. I am good at working with people.
It sounds like you're asking me if you're good at it. It sounds like you don't really know.
Now, let me try it with a warm, natural, falling intonation. I'll go up and down a little bit, but I'll drop the pitch at the end to show that it's a statement of certainty. I'm good at working with people.
Oh, that is completely different. It sounds inviting, it sounds true, it sounds grounded.
That little rise and fall, and especially the drop at the end, makes you sound engaged. It makes you sound like you care about what you're saying.
So, listener, when you practice your phrases, I'm good at, I'm working on, pay attention to the music of your voice. Try to smile a little bit while you say it.
Smiling is a fantastic tip. The sources actually mention that you can hear a smile. When you smile, it physically lifts the soft palate in your mouth, and it makes the sound brighter and friendlier.
And just coming back to culture for a moment, this tone aspect is very cultural. What sounds confident in English, that steady, friendly eye contact and clear voice, might be interpreted very differently in other languages. So being aware of this allows you to adapt. You aren't changing your personality, you're just unfilling.
Yeah.
You're tuning your instrument for the English language.
I have a lovely image. Tuning your instrument.
Now, we're getting towards the end of our deep dive, but we have to address the elephant in the room. Section 6. Practice and self-awareness. We can give all this great advice, but actually doing it, actually talking about yourself out loud, feels awkward.
It does. And I really want to validate that feeling for every single listener. It is completely normal to feel awkward doing this. It feels weird to say, I am good at this out loud. You are not alone in that feeling. It is shared by people all over the globe.
So how do we get over that awkwardness?
Practice, but very specific kinds of practice. You need to speak out loud, even if you're just alone in your room, and record yourself on your phone.
Oh, recording yourself is so hard. Most of us hate the sound of our own voice, but it is so useful.
It is the best tool there is. Listen to it back. Do you sound calm? Do you sound friendly? And repeat those common phrases, I'm good at, I'm comfortable with, until they start to feel like your own words.
The text mentions a really interesting cycle here. It says that confidence often comes before fluency, not after. What does that mean?
It means you don't have to wait until your English is perfect to feel confident. You can make a decision to be confident with the simple, clear English that you have right now. And when you speak with that confidence, you actually become more fluent because you aren't hesitating as much. Your brain literally releases different chemicals when you are confident versus when you are stressed.
And there's a neuroplasticity angle here too, isn't there?
Yes. Hearing these simple explanations and practicing them calmly over and over, it helps your brain organize the ideas. You're building patterns. The more you hear yourself say, "I'm good at planning," the more your brain accepts it as both a truth and as a language pattern.
It's like muscle memory for your mind.
Exactly that.
And finally, let's just look at the bigger picture. Why are we really doing all of this? Is it just to pass an interview? The source suggests something much deeper.
It really does. It suggests that talking about your strengths and your weaknesses is ultimately about self-awareness. It is about knowing who you are.
I think that is beautiful. English becomes a tool to express your personality, not just a subject you studied in school.
Yes. And many learners find that when they have to think about their strengths in English, they actually understand themselves better. They have to strip away all the complex excuses and just find the simple truth. What am I good at? Answering that in a second language can give you a completely new perspective on yourself.
So you're not just becoming a better English speaker, you're actually becoming a more self-aware person.
That is the ultimate goal.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today in our quiet, slow way. Let's do a little recap before we go. What are the main things we really want our listeners to take away from this?
Okay, let's boil it down into 4 simple points. First, keep it simple. You do not need fancy words. "I'm good at" is perfect. Second, reframe your weaknesses. They are areas for improvement. Use those phrases like, "I'm still working on." Third, use stories. Give little examples instead of just lists. And finally, fourth, watch your tone. Aim for that warm, confident middle ground.
And remember, you do not need perfect English to be clear. You just need to be honest. I wonder, listener, which phrase from today felt the most useful for you? Was it, "I'm comfortable with"? Or maybe, "I'm trying to improve"? Hold on to that phrase. It is yours now.
And take that thought with you. Self-awareness is a universal language. By mastering this simple way of talking about yourself, you are opening doors to better conversations and much deeper connections.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us on Fluent Mindcast. We hope this deep dive gave you a moment of calm and some really practical tools for your journey.
It was a pleasure. And remember, this is a safe space. Keep practicing, keep listening, and most of all, be kind to yourself as you learn.
We will see you next time. Until then, take care.